What is the secret behind Bruce Wayne's dual identity?
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Why did Neo follow the White Rabbit and Bruce Wayne follow the Bat?
No make survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness.
Did the Bat choose him, or did he choose the Bat?
He's here. Who? The Batman.
Why didn't Bruce Wayne become Ra's al Ghul?
This is beyond saving.
Beyond the psychology and symbolism of Batman begins from Sterling's perspective.
Welcome to Sterling Story Breakdown. This is episode 2 of Batman Film Analysis.
Glad to be here.
So I want you to imagine the worst, like the absolutely most chaotic moment of your entire life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. A moment where everything you thought you knew just totally collapses. Your anxiety is spiking and your mind is completely flooded with your darkest fears.
Basically a total meltdown.
Exactly. And, society generally tells you that to get through a moment like that, you need to find a way to calm down.
Right, like take a deep breath, find your center, achieve some state of peace.
Yeah, but what if that conventional wisdom is just completely wrong? Like, what if true power isn't about finding calmness at all, but about weaponizing that exact chaos?
And that right there is the core provocation of our deep dive today. We are unpacking a cinematic and psychological breakdown of Batman Begins, and we are doing it strictly through the lens of Sterling's perspective and analysis.
Which is such a fascinating lens because it strips away all that typical comic book mythology.
Totally. According to Sterling's framework, we aren't looking at a superhero origin story in the traditional sense. Sterling actually interprets this as a highly sophisticated psychological blueprint for real-life transformation.
It's really an exploration of how a human being, practically engineers a purposeful identity out of severe trauma.
Yeah, and we're going to look at the actual mechanics of that engineering today.
Right. So through Sterling's breakdown, we're going to explore why focus is heavily misunderstood, how true love sometimes demands intentional distance, rather than closeness.
And why unshakable power really has to be built in complete silence.
Let's start with the training phase, specifically the cognitive collapse. There's this really profound instruction that the mentor, Ducard, gives to Bruce Wayne where he says, you must journey inward.
Which sounds so peaceful, right?
Typically, journeying inward in a hero's narrative means like sitting on a mountaintop, clearing your mind, and finding Zen clarity. Doesn't focus usually mean achieving peace?
Well, Sterling's analysis completely dismantles that expectation. Sterling points out that the true test of Bruce's focus doesn't happen in some peaceful meditation.
No, it happens with that blue flower hallucinogen.
Exactly. Ducard forces Bruce to consume this substance, and the psychological effect is just a fundamental destruction of his rational control.
It basically brings all of Bruce's suppressed fears and terrifying childhood imagery straight to the surface.
He is physically destabilized. He's operating in a state of absolute internal chaos.
He's dizzy, his perception is impaired, his own mind is actively attacking him, and yet in this entirely compromised state, Ducard demands that Bruce identify him among a group of men dressed identically.
Which is insane. How is someone supposed to focus when their brain is essentially melting down?
Right. And right here is where Sterling redefines focus. In Sterling's interpretation, focus is absolutely not calmness.
Not at all.
Focus is the ability to maintain directional intent despite severe internal chaos.
Directional intent. I love that term because, we tend to frame willpower as this fleeting emotional surge. Like you get a good night's sleep, you drink your coffee, you feel motivated, so you act.
Yeah, the ideal conditions.
Right. But Sterling argues that willpower is actually a structural capacity to act at your absolute lowest functional state. Bruce has to keep his internal guidance system locked onto a goal when his entire psychological house is burning down.
Let's really break down that idea of directional intent because that challenges how most of us operate day to day. We usually wait for the storm to pass.
Yeah, we say, I'll make that career move when I feel less anxious or whatever.
Or I'll have that difficult conversation when I'm in a better headspace. But heroism, according to Sterling's breakdown, means abandoning the luxury of ideal conditions.
You're steering a ship with a broken rudder in the middle of a hurricane.
Exactly. You aren't trying to make the water smooth, you're just maintaining enough directional intent to keep off the rocks. You have to move forward within your own imperfection.
And mastering that internal chaos brings Bruce to his next critical threshold, which Sterling identifies as the moral break.
And because mastering your own mind is one thing, but eventually you have to evaluate the environment that actually helped you achieve that mastery.
Right. Bruce looks around at his mentor and the League of Shadows, and they demand that he execute a criminal to prove his commitment.
They want him to cross a definitive moral line. And this is such a fascinating real-world dilemma. Bruce is standing in front of the very teacher who gave him the tools to conquer his mind.
It is incredibly difficult to look at the person who saved you and say, I'm taking your tools, but I'm rejecting your philosophy.
From Sterling's perspective, what does leaving the League actually represent?
Well, Sterling says the League of Shadows represents a powerful yet dangerous source. If we map this onto real life, that source could be a charismatic mentor, or a highly effective business strategy, or even a political ideology.
Something that works, but is inherently flawed.
Exactly. Sterling interprets Bruce's decision to leave as the ultimate demonstration of intellectual and moral maturity.
Because he realizes that acquiring knowledge requires aggressive discrimination.
Not passive acceptance, yeah.
You don't just adopt an entire ideology because the person delivering it gave you a few good tips, which is an incredibly common trap.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
People find a guru or a boss who helps them get disciplined, and suddenly they swallow every single opinion that person has.
And Sterling highlights the danger of that through the League's absolutist logic, right?
Yes. Their philosophy is binary. If a city is corrupt, it is entirely irredeemable and must be destroyed.
It's like discovering your house has a bad foundation and deciding the only solution is to burn the whole neighborhood down.
Right. But according to Sterling, Bruce filters Ducard's absolutist logic through his own internal moral compass. Bruce proves that human growth often begins with imitation, but it absolutely must culminate in independence.
He extracts the discipline and the focus, but he wholly rejects the destructive absolutism.
And that act of independent thought is the actual transformation. It shifts him from a follower into an autonomous individual.
So he rejects the absolutism, which leaves him independent but effectively empty-handed in terms of a mission. He returns to Gotham with intense intention, but he doesn't have a vehicle.
He's just a billionaire in a massive empty house.
Right. Then we get the conceptual spark. A bat flies into his drawing room. On a purely literal level, it's just a random animal getting through an open window.
But Sterling's text explicitly compares this moment to The Matrix.
Yes, the White Rabbit.
Exactly, where Neo is told to follow the White Rabbit.
But why is a trivial moment of wildlife getting into the house given such massive psychological weight in this analysis?
Because it operates as a psychological threshold. In Sterling's breakdown, the bat is not just an animal. It is the physical manifestation of Bruce's deepest, most paralyzing childhood trauma.
Right. Neo could have ignored the girl with the tattoo, and Bruce could have easily just called a servant to remove the bat.
But instead of avoidance, Bruce chooses reinterpretation. By acknowledging this signal, he weaponizes his vulnerability.
He takes the exact childhood trigger that made him feel powerless and actively engineers it into a performative identity meant to instill fear in others.
It's a complete inversion of power. And Sterling suggests this is how we must handle our own signals.
Because life constantly presents us with triggers, right?
Yeah, echoes of our past. Our trajectory is fundamentally altered by our ability to recognize these signals and assign new meaning to them. Bruce becomes a symbol because he chooses to construct a myth around his own trauma.
And we see the physical embodiment of that choice in the K's confrontation. Bruce lowers himself into this massive cavern, stands amidst a terrifying swarm of bats, and simply closes his eyes.
It is a stunning visual.
It really is. But based on Sterling's analysis, the film isn't suggesting he suddenly has supernatural control over animals, is it?
No, not at all. He is gaining psychological mastery over his own internal landscape. This is arguably the core philosophical pillar of Sterling's breakdown.
Which is what exactly?
That human beings do not become powerful by escaping their fear or avoiding their triggers or pretending they're invincible. We become powerful by facing the fear, dissecting it, and forging it into an instrument.
Like when Bruce explicitly states, "Bats frighten me. It's time my enemies shared my dread."
Yes, Sterling argues that uncontrolled fear destroys you from within, but mastered fear is pure psychological power.
You turn around, look at the trauma directly, and transform the anchor that was drowning you into the weapon you wield.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have the internal mastery, we have the conceptual symbol. Now we need to look at the actual architecture of how this is executed in the real world.
Because a psychological breakthrough is great, but Bruce has to physically build a crusade.
Right. He is down in this cave, preparing his equipment in total silence. However, a single person in a cave cannot single-handedly dismantle organized crime.
No, and Sterling zeroes in on this as a vital, pragmatic insight. Isolation is highly effective for the formation of an idea, but it is entirely insufficient for execution.
He spent 7 years training alone, but Gotham is a complex ecosystem.
Which introduces Sterling's concept of the limited alliance.
I want to dig into that term, limited alliance.
Yeah.
Because he's meticulously calculating who gets access to his inner circle.
Yes. He recruits Lucius Fox for technical resources and independence from the corporate machine.
He relies on Alfred for emotional continuity.
And he forms a bridge with James Gordon, who represents a rare, uncorrupted institutional link.
Notice how different these three individuals are.
Very different. And from Sterling's perspective, Bruce's trust here is highly calculated, not emotional. Bruce understands the system is compromised, so he builds a heavily controlled, compartmentalized network.
Sterling frames this as a calibrated balance between intense private discipline and highly selective collaboration.
Right. You do the deeply personal work in isolation, but you build a strategic alliance to move the lever in the real world.
But every time he acts, he risks exposing his true identity. If people start looking closely at Bruce Wayne, the entire structure collapses.
Which brings up Alfred's brilliant strategic advice to play the careless billionaire.
From a tactical standpoint, it's like a magician's misdirection. You create a massive, loud distraction with your left hand, so nobody notices what your right hand is doing in the dark.
Sterling validates that exact mechanism. In Sterling's breakdown, invisibility does not mean physically vanishing. Invisibility means becoming misread.
Becoming misread. That's powerful.
Yeah, Alfred forces Bruce to apply Ducard's teachings about theatricality to his social life. If Bruce presents himself as disciplined and morally driven, he attracts scrutiny.
But if he performs the exhausting role of a shallow, arrogant playboy, he becomes socially insignificant.
And in Sterling's analysis, that social insignificance provides the ultimate armor.
It is entirely perception management. The public, Bruce Wayne, is a hollow, constructed performance designed exclusively to protect his functional identity.
It's Batman.
Right. It's like wearing a high-vis vest to walk into a restricted building. People see the uniform, and their brain deletes you from their attention.
Sterling emphasizes a deeply nuanced psychological principle here. Not all truth deserves to be visible to everyone at all times.
You protect your true intentions by letting people misunderstand you on purpose.
Letting people misunderstand you on purpose, it's tough.
It is a staggering concept. But that duality comes with a devastating personal cost. And that cost is completely localized in his relationship with Rachel.
Yeah, this is where it gets heavy.
Rachel is a prosecutor.
Yeah.
She defines people entirely by their tangible actions. So when Bruce puts on this mask of a careless billionaire, she is understandably repulsed by him.
Naturally.
And I struggle with this because pushing away the people you care about feels isolating and destructive. Is that really love, or is that just a trauma response?
Well, Sterling tackles this specific tension, and it's one of the most emotionally resonant elements of the analysis. Bruce isn't pushing Rachel away because he's emotionally unavailable.
He's doing it as a protective intention.
Exactly. In Sterling's interpretation, love within this framework is defined by intentional distance. It is a silent, painful sacrifice.
Because if he exposed his true identity to her, she would instantly become a target for his enemies.
He constructs a public persona that actively repels her specifically to keep her off the target list.
The greater the love, the greater the distance required to preserve her safety. It's a tragic paradox. You have to endure the person you love thinking the absolute worst of you.
But he doesn't maintain that perfect discipline the entire time.
No. There's the exception at his birthday party. He's playing the drunken billionaire, kicking his guests out to save them. But when he sees Rachel heading off into the Narrows, into active danger, he drops the mask.
He steps into the shadows and goes after her.
If the rule is protective distance, why break protocol?
Sterling analyzes this moment as Bruce fundamentally breaking the loop of his childhood trauma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The defining tragedy of his life was standing on the street, entirely powerless, watching his parents be murdered. He couldn't act.
And now he has the structural capacity to intervene.
Right. If he adheres strictly to his rules and watches Rachel walk into a death trap without intervening, he repeats that exact cycle of helplessness.
And Sterling argues that the psychological consequences of repeating that inaction would completely shatter his internal architecture.
It transcends just saving her life. It is about internal resolution. It's proving to his own subconscious that he is no longer the helpless child in the alley.
What elevates this action is the absolute silence of it.
Precisely the point Sterling makes. Bruce doesn't rescue her to win her back or to explain his secret. She doesn't even know it was him.
Love, in Sterling's context, moves far beyond verbal expression. It becomes pure, hidden action.
Sterling notes that this silent act of love provides the essential emotional grounding that prevents Bruce's mission from devolving into abstract fanaticism.
The mission is fueled by justice, but human connection is the grounding energy.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the climax of the film on the rushing train with Ra's al Ghul.
Visually, a phenomenal action sequence. But listening to Sterling's framework, this is not just a fistfight. This is the ultimate collision of philosophies.
It's the final exam for the student who outgrew the master.
Because throughout the film, Ra's al Ghul uses a recurring phrase. He constantly tells Bruce, mind your surroundings.
Which initially just sounds like practical martial arts advice. Watch your footing. Pay attention to the ice cracking.
But reading deeper into Sterling's analysis, that phrase represents something infinitely more profound.
Psychological awareness.
Right. Achieving a monumental goal requires you to aggressively protect your inner focus. You have to defend your mind against external chaos.
Against hopelessness, against emotional manipulation, even against mentors telling you your boundaries are weak. You have to mind your internal surroundings just as rigorously as your physical environment.
And the ultimate payoff to that philosophy is when Bruce stands over Ra's on the train and repeats the exact phrase back to him.
You never learn to mind your surroundings.
And then Bruce makes his defining moral choice. He realizes the train is going to crash. He refuses to save Raz, but he also vehemently refuses to execute him.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
In Sterling's breakdown, why is this so crucial?
This is the definitive moment Bruce proves the darkness never consumed his core. Raz was entirely consumed by absolutism, willing to murder millions.
But Bruce managed to maintain his deeper inner identity beneath the mask.
By refusing to become the executioner, he protects his moral compass. Sterling proves here that it is possible to operate entirely in the dark without surrendering your humanity to it.
It is a brilliant synthesis of the internal and the external. As we draw this deep dive into Sterling's analysis to a close, let's solidify what we've uncovered.
Let's do it.
If we treat this text as a blueprint for real-world transformation, what are the core takeaways?
Well, Sterling's text gives us 5 distinct pillars. First, growth must happen in silence. The world does not deserve access to your mission while you are still laying the foundation.
Right. Second, identity is something you must actively control and protect. Invisibility isn't about hiding. It's about strategically managing how society perceives you.
Third, fear is not an obstacle to be eliminated. It is raw material to be transformed into a tool. You forge it into a source of immense psychological leverage.
Fourth, love is the silent grounding force. Sometimes profound love means accepting intentional distance just to protect the people who give your life meaning.
And the 5th pillar from Sterling. Becoming a symbol is an engineered, conscious choice. It is the culmination of recognizing your internal signals, building alliances in silence, and defending your moral compass.
Looking at it through Sterling's lens really changes everything. It completely rewrites how you view personal ambition.
It really does.
We are conditioned to believe that transformation should be loud and constantly validated by the people around us. But maybe the most important work of your life isn't meant for an audience.
The most durable identities are forged far away from the spotlight.
Which leaves you with one final thought to explore on your own. If you successfully harness your trauma, build your alliances in silence, and construct a symbol powerful enough to change your environment, what happens to the person underneath? Does the mask eventually become the face, or is the ultimate victory of a symbol the day you are finally strong enough to take it off? The most profound transformations happen quietly in the shadows, waiting for the exact right moment to become a symbol.